For Project 6, our group has decided to focus on beetle kill in the United States, which is an issue present on both public and private lands. If you've ever visited Great Smoky Mountain National Park or Rocky Mountain National Park, you might have noticed patches of barren trees or red-colored pines. While you might think this is due to the change of the seasons, these trees are dead and dry as a result of bark beetle damage. Native bark beetles are an important force of disturbance in America's forests. Normally, these bark beetles prey upon stressed trees. They have the important role of thinning out weaker trees and making room for stronger ones. However, with a warming climate, increased duration and severity of droughts, longer fire season, and increased global travel, native and invasive bark beetle species are beginning to explode in population. These population explosions are a major source of vegetation mortality on both public and private lands in the United States.
As stated in the last slide, beetle kill is both a public and a price land issue. The graph in the center of the slide shows that the majority of land in the west is public forest, and the majority of the land in the east is privately owned forest. Each land type has their own problematic species. By analyzing maps from the USDA, our group has identified that mountain pine beetle and southern pine beetle are more common on western public lands, while southern pine beetle and emerald ash borers are more common on eastern private lands. The variety of land types and beetle species present in the United States creates the need for a unique and multi-step solution. In conjunction with our solution, we've identified 2 alternative solutions that can work in conjunction with or as a replacement for our solution.
Our group identified 2 alternate solutions to the widespread bark beetle problem in the United States. The first being the introduction of legislation that reopens federal land to industrial logging to remove beetle-killed trees. There is pre-existing programs like the Good Neighbor Authority that allows for logging on federally protected lands to achieve optimal management. The difference between the Good Neighbor Authority and our proposed alternative solution would be the size of the logging area. By having larger areas to harvest with specific identified trees within a predetermined distance of the impacted zone being harvested, it will limit the amount of potential bark beetle brooding sites. This idea is inspired by the technique used to manage wildfires in the Western US, with fire breaks being created to limit the spreading of fires.
The second alternative solution that our group came up with was the educational campaign to stop human beetle transportation. Many of these beetles, such as bark beetle and pine beetle in the US, are spread mainly through humans and their contact with the environment. This, coupled with a 117% rise in camping rates since the pandemic, creates a danger of spreading these beetles faster than the forest can handle, leading to a massive destruction of forests. One of the ways that we decided that we could do that to prevent this would be to implement sanitation regulations in national parks and camping grounds. A possible way would be implementing shoe washes and shoe brushes into all national parks and forest trailheads. These brushes and washes would allow visitors to wash and brush their shoes before and after their stay at the national parks and or at the trailheads. Upon doing so, it would eliminate any possible spread of beetles and or beetle larvae that might be on the bottom of their shoe inside or outside of the park. Another possible regulation that would be used to stop this would be a strict regulation on outside firewood into these places that people are going. Firewood could possibly contain beetles/beetle larvae within it, and when people bring it with them when they are camping, it is possible that they are spreading it to different places.
You just heard about our 2 alternate solutions that would help in the fight against beetle kill. Those 2 previous alternatives led to our primary solution, a 3-step plan that works to incorporate aspects from the alternatives with the goal of targeting the problem at different levels. Our first step is the promotion of education around forest ecosystems. The general public's view that the act of disturbing forests, either human or natural, as something that only leads to negative impacts. Through outreach from the Forest Service and National Park Services, the public can be informed about goods which disturbances in the systems can cause. Our second step is around the introduction of legislation encouraging the remediation of private forests impacted by beetle kill. These beetle kill events require federal levels of overview to help solve. The creation of specific pieces of legislation should shine a light on the impact these beetles are having and allocate the proper funds to organizations helping to restore impacted forests. Our third and last step in this plan is to introduce and expand subsidies and tax cuts for secondary wood products made from properly treated beetle kill wood. Many view these dead trees as unwanted and unusable, even undesirable, and that's quite to the contrary. Many industries are beginning to form around beetle kill wood and its usefulness. Introducing subsidies and tax cuts would encourage other secondary producers to venture into these new types of wood, and in turn, creating jobs and allowing people to buy local American-made products. To implement this plan, though, first, the stigma around the forest industry needs to be addressed.
Our solution was inspired by some successful pre-existing programs. The Forest Service Stewardship Program is a program that gives subsidies for sustainable forest management. We feel as if our solution, in combination with the Forest Service stewardship, could increase motivation for private landowners to work with foresters and wildlife biologists to create management plans. In order to keep beetle kill from getting out of control, having healthy forests on private lands is an essential cornerstone. The Good Neighbor Authority is a program that will work in conjunction with our plan. This program is from the Forest Service and allows forest managers to contract private lumber companies to help reach a desired management goal. Because most of the beetle kill affected forests in the West are on public land, our solution needs to be able to work closely with the Good Neighbor Authority in order to thin out affected areas. Lastly, the certification program in our solution to allow forest owners to apply for grants and cost sharing was inspired by the Certified Wildlife Habitat Program. The Certified Wildlife Habitat Program allows private landowners to certify their land as a wildlife habitat if they manage their land meeting the qualifications provided by the program. This certification not only protects their land from development, but also gives them small tax cuts. It is essential to work hand in hand with pre-existing programs in order to start our solution to become another successful program for forest management.
Our plan involves harvesting beetle-affected trees. This could pose problems because there is a negative stigma surrounding timber harvesting. The Good Neighbor Authority and the Forest Stewardship Program are already in effect that allows logging on federally protected lands to enhance management goals. The difference between these programs and our plan was explained in the earlier slides when discussing alternative solution 1. Unlike our plan, other programs could provoke a negative public perception depending on the type of land management practices used. For example, clear cutting has a strong negative perception, like we've mentioned in our presentation, because it removes every tree from a specified area. Our program would only remove trees affected by beetles or trees that will be affected by beetles, which ultimately improves the overall health of the forest. There are actual studies that support this. One was done in Colorado and Wyoming by Kamman and Chang that used analysis of public value attitudes to advise these two states about national forest planning. They concluded that respondents were in favor of salvage logging if it benefited wildlife habitat. They were less supportive if the logging was for economic benefit or financial gain. Our program would help to decrease the stigma around timber harvesting, which would assist remediation efforts in going more smoothly.
Front Range Lumber Company, which is based out of Lakeside, Colorado, along with their affiliates and competitors, have come up with a solution to use undesirable wood products from the beetle kill by creating high-quality secondary wood products. Our solution proposes these companies receive subsidies for their efforts, and consumers who buy these products receive tax cuts. These tax cuts will not only benefit consumers and producers, but also the landowners, and will furthermore place a cushion on wood product companies who helps to solve the beetle kill problem. This will also help to effectively boost the wood product economy, especially promoting these beautiful, sustainable, and previously undesirable products that are genuinely American made. Blue stained wood for mountain pine beetle infections are the most commonly sold beetle kill wood. A fungus that the beetle carries infects the wood and turns parts of the wood into a stunning bluish gray. These unique wood pattern is a wonderful natural replacement for traditional staining and achieves the rustic look many homeowners love.
It is not a surprise that tree removal operations are out of many landowners' budgets. Our group recognizes that in order to decrease mortality of trees in already weakened private forests, grants and cost-sharing programs need to be available to property owners. As a viewer, we're sure that you may be thinking, well, this sounds great, but where does the money for these grants, cost-sharing programs, and tax incentives going to come from? While the direct funds needed are still unclear due to the variety of land types and severity of areas affected by beetle kill, we can brainstorm potential ways to generate funds. One solution our group has brainstormed is a small tax on national and state park entrance and camping reservation fees. Cited from the National Park Service, after the pandemic, entrance frequencies have increased by 70% and camping reservations by 117%. In another source, the National Park Service reported that in 2020, they had over 237 million visitors. A small tax of just 20 cents could generate funds of over $47 million from national park admittance fees alone. By working with foresters to identify beetle kill on private property, landowners may enroll in cost sharing and grants to carry out a proposed management plan from that forester. Once private landowners have the financial aid to carry out these plans, they can then enroll for the Forest Stewardship Program and receive monthly compensation for maintaining sustainable forest management. Overall, beetle kill is a nationwide problem that has significantly altered the forests that symbolize American freedom. So let's work together on protecting and healing our cherished nation's forests for our generation and for America's future generations.